Hey, everybody, welcome in. It is the Houtopia Football Podcast, the first episode of the new week. It is here, the last week of June. It's great to be with you. And we got a lot to get to on the show today. My name is Sean Pendergast, one half of Payne and Pendergast, Sports Radio 610, and of course joined, as always, by my good friend, the Hall of Famer, and he's our senior columnist at sportsradio610.com, John McClain. John, how was your weekend, my friend?
My weekends are always great, just like I'm always great.
Attaboy. I like hearing that. Well, we'll get to the Astros in just a minute. That's not to rain on your great parade, John, but we'll get to the Astros in just a few minutes. But before we get to that, we'll do some for real or fugazi later as we kind of head into the lull in the offseason here for the Texans. There's still plenty of topics to dig into with the Texans, but I guess the only real news, John, that I can think of Texans-wise from this past week is that on Friday, Will Anderson signed his rookie deal, 4 years, $35 million, $22 million guaranteed. And I guess probably if it's news, I don't know how newsy it is because these contracts are all slotted, but CJ Stroud is one of a handful of rookies who still has yet to sign his deal. But what are your thoughts on the Will Anderson getting that piece of business done?
Nothing. There's no contract issues anymore unless a guy doesn't report to training camp because he doesn't like the language in the contract. When I used to cover the Oilers, they had holdouts that would go to the trade deadline in October. They'd have multiple holdouts missing training camp. And every day, agents were ripping the general manager. General manager was ripping the agents. Now, that's news, but I love it. The way it is today, you don't have to mess with it. And you just wait till they say it's done.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing, if that were the case, then why? I'm sure a question people are listening to the pod are asking, okay, well, why aren't all 31 first-round picks signed then if it's that easy?
Because it's slotted, as you mentioned.
It's slotted, but if it's slotted, it should be real easy. I guess there are a few little things linguistically in the contract that they can haggle over, offset language and things like that. That get hung up. I guess, John, the message I would give to Texan fans, because it's probably less about Will Anderson and more about CJ Stroud and the fact that David Mulugheta is CJ Stroud's agent, is, to your point, it's all slotted. There's little things here and there that they can haggle over, but this is not going to turn into some sort of crisis for the Texans because David Mulugheta has a hangover from whatever was going on with Deshaun Watson a couple years ago.
Mulugheta loves the Texans. They gave him an incredible extension. They gave him the no trade clause. They got no issues with him. And you mentioned offset language. I'm guessing most viewers and listeners have no clue what that is. And it has to do with if you get cut. It's so amazing to me that you're talking about first-round picks and possibly getting cut before their contract's up. And it happens, because some of them tend to be bust. Well, offset means they get all their money no matter what they get with the other team. And a lot of them say, hey, if we cut you, we shouldn't have to pay you the rest if another team is paying it. And some of them make a big deal out of it. I remember one of the Boses missed a lot of training camp, and then they always cave.
Yeah. I was thinking about this too, John, just in the wake of this news and then the Rockets draft last week, where the Rockets, by all accounts, had a pretty good draft. The experts who follow the draft, they got Amen Thompson with the 4th pick, and they got Cam Whitmore, the freshman from Villanova, with the 20th pick. He slid all the way to 20th in the draft, and that was viewed as a steal by a lot of people. There's a lot of fun rookies in this town right now. Between the top 2 guys for the Texans, Stroud and Anderson, who, by the way, Anderson favorite for the defensive rookie of the year, Stroud 4th on the odds board for offensive rookie of the year. Bijan Robinson is the favorite. Hunter Brown is 4th on the AL Rookie of the Year odds board, 9.5 to 1. And then you got the 2 Rocket rookies who, one is Thompson is 14 to 1, Whitmore is 20 to 1. The NBA, they're going to have to, Victor Wembanyama is going to have to get abducted by aliens to not win Rookie of the Year probably. So the Rocket rookies probably are super long shots in actuality. But that's a pretty fun little quintet of rookies right there in this town.
It's not just rookies, it's second-year players like Derek Stingley Jr. and Jalen Petrie and Jabari Smith and Eason. The Rockets have so many number 1 picks. I couldn't believe they've had multiples for so long, and they have so many. And Smith and Jalen Green are their 2 best players. And I thought Whitmore, I didn't know a lot about it. I was watching it, and I was watching Jay Billis, who's one of the top broadcasters for ESPN couldn't understand why he didn't go. And he had him, I think he had him listed as fourth best on his board ahead of the Thompson. So that would have been absolutely qualify as a steal. It's going to be fun to watch and see how these guys develop.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way. I mean, just to put numbers to what you just said, John, they picked 8 players in the first round in the last 3 seasons.
Wow.
Which I guess probably speaks to the value of first-round picks in the NBA versus the NFL. Like, if you had a team that picked 8 players in the first round the last 3 years in the NFL, if one of them's a good quarterback, chances are you're talking about that team being a Super Bowl contender. The Rockets are talking about having to spend $60 million on overpriced free agents just to compete for a playoff spot, which I think, nature of the sport, if you get those picks right in the first round, boy, it can really boost you. But there's such volatility in the NBA.
I was watching ESPN on Sunday night. One of their former front office executives, who's an expert, and he was showing if the Rockets signed James Harden, which would be like $47 million, how you could take 3 good free agents who would fit what they need for the same thing you could spend on Harden. And I'm totally against Harden coming back to Houston. Give me those other free agents any day of the week.
Yeah. I'd be curious who they are. Did you remember names? Did he put names to it, John?
Or he slid them over from the category, told how they'll fit in. One was a guy from Denver who opted out.
Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown.
Yep.
He was one. I forget the other 2. But he said if the Rockets take these 3 guys for the same amount, doesn't mean they could get them. Yeah. He was just talking about how much the cap would be or how much they were paying. And it's looked a whole lot better than having Harden coming in there with all those young guys and not exactly being the kind of leader they want on or off the court.
All right, we went a little rocket tangent there, but I was, dovetailing off of the Will Anderson signing. A lot of fun young players in this town right now. Hopefully it turns into some wins. All right, John, shifting gears. This time of year, you and I talk a lot of Astros because it's a bit of a dead time football-wise. I will say this about the weekend series against the Dodgers is that if I were just an average baseball fan, just watching those 2 games the last 2 nights, because they were nationally televised games. The Saturday game was a Fox game, and last night was the ESPN game. Those were 2 pretty fun games and dramatic back-and-forth games to watch if you were just the average baseball fan. You and I are not the average baseball fan. We're fans of the Houston Astros. And John, I can't ever remember coming away from an Astros win, feeling angrier than I did last night.
When is Dusty Baker going to realize Rafael Montoya can't pitch anymore? Send him to Sugar Land.
Montero.
Is he all right? Montero. What does it say, Montoya?
Montoya.
I get so mad. Rafael Montero, who pitched great last year, was tremendous in the playoffs. He got his new contract. I know when I was there for the start of spring training, he wasn't there. They said visa problems. So I don't know what his problem was, but he hadn't fixed it. His ERA after stinking it up against the Dodgers is 7.79. Send him to Sugar Land. And every reason Dusty didn't want to use Hector Neris and Ryan Presley because they pitched. Both of them pitched great. Maton came back and pitched a shutout inning, but Montero has got to go to Sugar Land on the first bus headed down 59.
Yeah, John, this is where I get a little uptight about the what feels like the over-coddling and overhandling of pitchers. Like, Hector pitched the last 2 nights. I'd hate to have to use him. He threw 2 pitches, like literally threw 2 pitches on Saturday night. And to your point, you wind up using him anyways. If you had just brought Presley in to get the last out of the 8th inning, then he never would have had to pitch 2 innings in the 9th and the 10th. And kudos to Ryan Presley, who was he was teetering for a while on that same brink that a few of these relievers have been teetering on lately with Montero. Stanik's not been great this year. Brian Abreu's got issues all of a sudden. Maton is not what he was at the beginning of the year. Like Neris and Presley are the only 2 guys you can really trust right now. And hell, Seth Martinez, he did a great job in extra innings, I thought, in the 11th inning coming in. And kudos to Mauricio Dubon, John. Saved the game, I would say, with that diving play in the bottom of the 11th inning, kept the ghost runner from scoring, and eventually Martinez retires aside and they win the game. Jose Altuve is a Hall of Famer, and he's the greatest Astro in history. He does not make that play that Dubon made in extra innings to save that run from coming home. He's just, for one, Dubon is just empirically, he's taller. I don't think Altuve would have gotten to the baseball because it was a diving stop. And then you had to get up and make a throw. And Altuve's arm is not his strong suit. Dubon is actually, he's a shortstop playing second base. So that was kudos to him. But Dusty's usage of Montero and even some of the decisions when they had first and third, nobody out, and he's got Maldonado in there, squeeze bunting instead of, letting Diaz come in and take a crack at it,
Why Yainer Diaz is ever out of this lineup baffles me. Dubon hits a home run. He's not playing the next night. Diaz had 4 hits, didn't play the next night. It just, the way the lineup, talent would overcome moves like that in the past, and they don't have it because of injuries. And, Alvarez is hitting in the cage again. That's a good sign. Altuve was out. The play you're talking about, he made the dive to get the ground ball on the behind second base. And he got up so quick, and he got a great arm too. Mm-hmm. There's no way Altuve could have made that play any better. Dubon has been the biggest surprise on this team. Diaz is second. Corey Julks is third. Those 3 guys have all gone above and beyond. And I hate to think where they'd be without their contribution.
Well, 2 of them weren't even supposed to make the team out of spring training. I mean, Diaz and Diaz was in a battle with Corey Lee and Julks. Nobody thought Julks was going to make the team, and he's had some plays too. Julks giveth, Julks taketh away. I mean, he had the hit to drive home the run in the 10th, and then I don't know what he was doing on the bunt, trying to leave from third after the ball got thrown to first base with nobody out, or it would have been with 1 out if he just stayed on third. That was a boneheaded play. John, just big picture. How do you think this plays out with Dusty Baker? Either during the season, after the season, what do you think the end game is here as far as 2023 into 24 goes? Do you think this is Dusty Baker's last year as a manager of the Astros?
I do. He's 74 years old, and now if they go the American League Championship Series again or the World Series, but they got so many injuries on their pitching staff. J.P. France, he came out of nowhere, 28-year-old rookie now. He's pitched above and beyond. Mm-hmm. And it's weird some of the calls they make about call-ups. They got guys in AAA tearing the cover off the ball, but they don't bring them up for whatever reason. I'd love to see if they could do like Diaz and Dubon and Julks and at the plate. But it wouldn't surprise me if it isn't his last year. Now, he has said he wants to keep managing, but the end comes for everybody. He's done a tremendous job overall, but, they can always point to the injuries on the pitching staff. Alvarez gets hurt every year and misses significant time. Altuve being out at the start of the season, but that gave Dubon a chance. And the Maldonado I wonder how many times he's put down a successful bunt in his career.
He's actually a decent bunter for a catcher, John. He put one down last week. I remember a game he put one down, and that was 2 bunt attempts in a game. My whole thing with bunt attempts, if you have an everyday player who you feel compelled to have bunt twice in a game, and he's not somebody who can beat it out. It's one thing if it's a speedster who that ain't Maldonado. If you have a hitter in your lineup that at any point during the season you feel compelled that the best thing to do with him is bunt twice in a game, you got a big problem with that hitter.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. So all right. So that's our Stros, and it's a big week coming up, John. 3 in St. Louis and then 4 in Arlington.
I hope everybody's healthy, although I doubt. I see some reports about Alvarez won't be back until after the All-Star game. I don't know, of course. But if he comes in as hard as he swings, if he swings and he re-injures it, he could be out a long time. So whenever he's ready, they probably ought to hold him out another week just to make sure. But it's amazing, really, they've done what they've done without him in the lineup.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've scored some runs the last few games, but it's been tough. The best case for Yordan's MVP is him not being in the lineup for this team. I think him being in the lineup.
Great line.
Yeah. All right. It is the Houtopia Football Podcast here. So and a big reminder too, I should do this at the beginning, but if you're listening to this podcast, be sure to click on subscribe and use that Audacy app to find us. We know more and more people finding us every week, so we appreciate you telling a friend about us as well. Wherever it is you get your podcast, make sure you click that subscribe button so you get it automatically. John, you want to do a little For Real or Fugazi?
Let's do it.
All right, we do this every Monday. It's called For Real or Fugazi. I read a sentence to John, sports-related, and sometimes non-sports related. I read it as if it is fact. If John agrees that it is indeed fact, he says for real. If he thinks that what I said is just ballyhoo and hogwash, he says
Fugazi.
Fugazi. It's Italian for counterfeit. It means I'm a phony. All right, John, here we go. For real or Fugazi? Ka'imi Fairbairn will be the Texans' starting kicker in 2024. For real or Fugazi?
For real. He's given no reason to show that he shouldn't be. They're very fortunate to have John Weeks, Ka'imi Fairbairn, Cam Johnston. A better question would be, will Cam Johnston, because his contract's up, he is still the only free agent. Nick Caserio's given a 3-year contract.
Yeah. Well, and Ka'imi, and that's why I said 2024. This is his last year of a deal that I think a lot of people, when Bill O'Brien gave it to him, it was one of a slew of deals where O'Brien decided to pay list times 2. Ka'imi was one of the highest paid kickers in football when he signed that deal, but I don't think he was considered one of the best. He's still, even 4 years later, the 9th highest paid kicker in the sport. So you think that Nick Caserio is of mind to pay a kicker, huh?
I do. I don't think a lot of money, but I think they'll pay him.
Okay.
It's like he paid Cam Johnston. Right now, special teams are the least of their problem.
Yeah.
You don't want to create another problem. I remember Oilers general managers used to think, oh, we can get a kicker. We can get a punter anywhere until they had to start looking. Then there was a revolving door.
All right, next one, John. Unlike last season, Deshaun Watson's return to NRG Stadium in Week 16 this year will be a non-story. For real or Fugazi?
Fugazi. It's going to be a huge story. Talk shows will be talking about it all week. Chronicle will be writing about it. Brandon and I will be writing about it in Sports Radio 610. .com. As long as he is playing against the Texans, it'll be a big story. And when he's playing in Houston, it will always be a humongous story because maybe, just maybe this year, they'll have a chance to beat him, unlike last year when he didn't do squat and the Texans were terrible and the Browns won.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay. I guess I hesitate to say they didn't have a chance to beat him last year. Like Kyle Allen literally handed the Browns like 21 points. Like it's almost like Montero, John. Like if you take any other human being and put them in instead of Rafael Montero, you have a much better chance of winning that baseball game. Similarly, I think if they'd taken any human being in the stadium other than Kyle Allen that day, they would have a chance. That was by far Deshaun Watson's worst game as a pro last year. By far.
He was, and he was beatable, and the crowd was fired up. And the Texans' offense was the worst I've ever seen in this city's history, going back to the 71 and 72 Oilers who won one game in 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the one game they win in the last month of the season was the one game nobody wanted them to win. And you got Cowboys and Chiefs and Browns, and they don't win any of those. It's just, anyways, bigger and brighter things ahead for sure. All right, next one, John. For real or Fugazi? Justin Jefferson will eventually be the next big-name wide receiver to get traded for multiple high picks.
Fugazi, I think he means too much to Kevin O'Connell's offense. He's definitely one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the league. And Kirk Cousins could be gone after this year. And if you take Cousins and Jefferson out of that offense, as they've gotten rid of so many players as it is, I think the one guy that can be guaranteed to staying is Jefferson. And now maybe on a contract after that, if he gets a short-term deal for a big money average. But I don't think on the next one he'll be traded, not Justin Jefferson.
They're slow playing him right now, though, reportedly up in Minnesota. You know, he wants that deal. So they're kind of taking it easy. John, I said this on the show the other day, and maybe Justin Jefferson, I'm with you. I think Minnesota is going to sign him. And I think they do it this offseason. But Jefferson, you know, a guy like T. Higgins in Cincinnati, he's another one heading into a contract year that I think wants to get paid, but it's going to be awfully hard for the Bengals to pay him and pay Burrow and pay Jamar Chase. the Texans have a huge need at wide receiver to get one of those types of guys, the guy. That would be progress to me, John, for this season. Like if after this season, there's some big, especially a wide receiver, but there's some big like trade pieces out there that teams don't want to give big money to, but they want to get a couple premium picks for. That if the Texans can get mentioned in those trade talks for those teams as a possible destination and people aren't snickering about it, kind of like when the Jets were going after Tyreek Hill, I think people looked at that and said, okay, well, they're not a good football team, but you see some pieces there and it starts to look like something. And I could see where Tyreek Hill might want to go there. The Texans get mentioned and stuff like that, John, and people are like, yeah, I could see that. Progress, John. This is progress in 2023.
Players are always going to go where they get the most money. And one of the things you worry about, a guy like T. Higgins, if a guy's number 2 at one team, can he be a number 1 with you? Yeah. Or is he just one of those guys that needs to be a number 2, gets single covered all the time?
Alvin Harper syndrome, John. That's what we call it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Great example.
Yep. All right, next one, John. For real or Fugazi? By the time the Titans play the Texans, week 15 and week 17, Will Levis will be the Titans starting QB. For real or Fugazi?
That's true. I just spent a weekend in Nashville, went up for the funeral of the late Bob Hyde, who longtime executive with the Oilers and Titans, and I saw a lot of Titans people, spent time with fans, and everybody expects Levis to be starting at some point. They were 6-6 with Ryan Tannehill last year, but they're not going to win the division, might not go to the playoffs, but at some time Levis is going to be playing. Everybody thinks it'll be at some point in late November, early December.
Are they excited about him, John?
They're mixed because there's been a lot, because they should have been fired up about getting him in the second round. Everybody thought he was going in the first round, but a lot are like, if he's going in the second round, something's matter with him. And then when you tell them about things that happened between his last 2 years at Kentucky, losing coordinator and offensive lineman, his favorite receivers, they're like, oh, and that's not Titans people, that's fans. But there's nowhere near the feeling among the fans there as there is here over Stroud. And that's the difference in a guy being taken second and a guy falling into the second round.
Yeah, I would say so too. All right, 2 more, John, non-football. For real or Fugazi, at some point during the 2023 season, Jose Abreu will no longer be the everyday first baseman for the Astros.
Fugazi, I mean, what do you want from the guy? He had, 3 hits in a game against the Dodgers? He's had 2, a couple, and he's almost caught up with Chaz and Corey with home runs. He probably shouldn't be. I'd put Yainer Diaz at first base, but you know how dusty he is to prove a point. And all the money they paid him, they got to justify it to Jim Crane. So I think as long as he's healthy, he's going to be the first baseman. He'll get a few rests. I'm hoping when he gets a few rests, he's not the DH. And because once Alvarez comes back, what happens to Yainer Diaz? What happens if Yainer continues to produce? If Altuve's healthy, what happens to Mauricio Dubon? Dusty's got to find a way, to me, to keep Diaz in the lineup when Alvarez returns.
How about last night, John? And as you're listening to this, our faithful listeners out there, we're recording this on a Monday, so this is the day after the Astros 6-5 extra inning win over the Dodgers. First extra inning win of the year, by the way.
Yippee-ki-yay!
Yep, absolutely. How about Carl Ravitch after Abreu's home run is like, Jose Abreu is back.
Oh,
and I'm like, dude, he's been back like 4 times this year. He's been back more times than the University of Texas football's been back in the last decade. He's back. Get the hell out of here.
Oh, give me a break.
Oh, my God. All right, last one, John.
Oh, hold on. I got one even better.
Okay.
I was watching ESPN, and I heard Kirk Herbstreit say Billy O'Brien is the best offensive mind in the NFL.
What, John?
Billy O'Brien.
John, I need proof of this. This is like saying telling me you saw Bigfoot. I need pictures, John. I need video of this. Really? Where was this? Like on what show?
I don't remember. I had the TV on and I was watching.
Oh my God!
And they were talking about Mac Jones and others, and And Billy O'Brien is the best offensive mind in football. And I started to tweet it, but I didn't.
Did he call him Billy?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everybody that has had anything to do with O'Brien and the Patriots calls him Billy, even though ever since he went to Penn State and here he's Bill. But up there, he's Billy.
He's Billy. All right. Okay.
And then I heard another one say he's one of the best offensive minds in the NFL.
Okay. I mean, he's a solid enough coach. He's a horrible GM.
Solid was a good way to put it.
Yeah,
solid.
He's solid enough. Like he's you know, he's got his blind spots. He's not horrible, but
it would help him a lot if he could do for Mac Jones and get Mac Jones to play better than he's ever played. You know, when you're coaching Brady, that's one thing, and he did do a good job with developing Deshaun Watson. But now I would think Watson's more talented than Mac Jones. But if Mac Jones starts playing better than we've ever seen him, then people can start praising Bill. Now, he did a great job with Bryce Young, but Young had so much talent around him, and he's so gifted. But we'll see. He's been very blessed to coach a lot of really good quarterbacks.
No doubt. All right, last one, John. And I don't know if you have firsthand practical knowledge of what I'm about to say, but I'm about to go on vacation next week. And part of our vacation along the way here is a trip to Tennessee, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, to be exact, home of Dolly Parton. For real or fugazi, Dollywood greater than Disney World?
Let's see. It depends on what you want. If you want mountains and trees and beautiful scenery, and you don't want traffic wall to wall across the state, like you get in Florida. And I have not been to Dollywood, but I know all about it from all my friends in Tennessee. Still, it's Dollywood versus Disney World. I'll say Disney World's best, but you're gonna get some beautiful, beautiful territory.
Okay, so that's a fugazi right there, huh?
That's a fugazi.
Fugazi. All right. John, can I just tell you that Dolly Parton is one of my 5 favorite people on the face of the earth?
No, I didn't know that.
I love Dolly Parton. I think she's a delicate flower, John. Yes.
A delicate. I don't think there's anything delicate about him.
She is my. Amy knows this. Dolly Parton is my hall pass in the 70 to 79-year-old category.
Oh, that's great.
I love her. I love her to death.
I used to, when I was growing up in Waco, there was a AM station that played music, and they had 2 people imitating her and Porter Wagner, and I can't remember the commercial, but I remember, ooh, Porter, squeeze these, baby. You're going to love it. And it might have had something to do with cantaloupes or watermelon or fruit.
Charmin. It's a Charmin commercial.
Would have been Charmin. It was hilarious. It was a local commercial. I didn't know who Porter Wagner was. I knew who Dolly Parton was. And I'm thinking, could she really be talking about?
Theater of the mind, man. That's funny. That is great. All right. Well, John, I'll report back on Dolly. We're definitely going to Dollywood. So
you're going to have a blast.
I can't wait. I've never stayed in the Smoky Mountains before. I'm really excited. We have a cabin.
Beautiful.
We have a cabin in the mountains. Nobody near us with a hot tub on the front patio there on like the deck, and it faces the mountains. It's going to be good.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. I'm very excited. Very excited about that.
And I'm assuming Amy's excited too.
I'll let you know. I'll check with her. I probably should have asked her before I scheduled the vacation. Are you excited about this? But I'll ask her afterwards. Were you excited?
You she's excited.
She is. I'm just joking. Oh, you kidding me? No, I definitely check with her before I do that stuff. All right, John, what do you got going on your various platforms?
Tell people right quick where all y'all are going and how you're getting there.
We are driving. We are stopping in multiple places along the way. We do a 2-week road trip every year. So we get Airbnbs in different places and cabins in the mountains. And we're going to a wedding of a coworker of mine, Jesse Watt, the morning DJ on 96.5. She and her fiance, Tyler Marcotte, who you know, John, he used to work for the Texans.
Yep.
They're getting married in Michigan. So we're stopping. We have a houseboat in Arkansas the first night. That's Sunday night.
Wow.
We have a tiny house in Nashville on the 3rd of July. We have a hotel in downtown Indy, and we're going to a minor league baseball game on the 4th of July.
Oh, that's great.
Then the wedding is at a resort up in Michigan. That'll be nice. And then it's to the Smoky Mountain cabin for 4 days. And then we're staying in a refurbished caboose in Ashland, Alabama for a night. And then we're going to Tillman Fertitta's Golden Nugget in Biloxi for 2 more nights, and then it's home. So that's what we're doing.
It's going to be a tremendous trip.
I love it.
I can't wait. I may see if I can go with you.
No, dude, we got room. We're bringing the big truck, John. So you can definitely jump in with us. Cool, John. What do you got going on your various platforms?
On Tuesday, I'll have a column about C.J. Stroud and how the Texans could use him and what they want to see in training camp.
Okay, good stuff. SportsRadio610.com is where you can find all of John's stuff. So look there at McClain_on_NFL is where you can find John on Twitter. I'm at Sean T. Pendergast. As you can see right at the bottom of the screen, if you're watching on video on YouTube right now, you can see him right there on the screen. So give us a follow there as well. Big thanks to James Jackson, our producer, who does a great job getting the podcast out to each and every one of you. Hit that subscribe button. The podcast comes automatically. The Audacy app is the best place to go. Search on my name, John's name, or the Houtopia Football Podcast, Houtopia, and you'll find it there. Tell a friend. We appreciate it. It's going to be a fun season of Texans football, and we've got you covered here on the Houtopia Football Podcast. For John McClain and James Jackson, I'm Sean Pendergast. We are out of time. We will see all of you. A mailbag episode coming up Wednesday, HOU mailbag at gmail.com to send your questions, HOU mailbag at gmail.com. Until then, have a great day, everybody.